Why, yes, I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Live from Little Rock, it's Shane Plays Radio, Geek Talk Radio, a journey into the things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. Thanks so much for joining us, whether you're listening live on 96.5 FM, The Answer in Central Arkansas, or if you're listening online via 96.5 FM, theanswer.com, the live stream, or if you're listening by podcast or a week delayed on Krypton Radio. Krypton Radio is sci-fi for your Wi-Fi, kryptonradio.com. Thanks so much for listening. I'm glad to have you. We're going to change up the format a little bit today because my guest has to leave a tad bit early, so we want to make sure to be respectful of his time. So the news segment, including me honoring Star Trek's 50th anniversary by telling my favorite Star Trek joke, will be towards the end of the show. Okay? So we'll do that after the second break in order to spend as much time as possible with our guest, who's super cool. I'm about to introduce him. Don't forget, this show does go out as a podcast on my blog at shaneplays.com, ShanePlays.com, on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher. We're also now on the iHeartRadio podcast network, and it also goes up on YouTube at youtube.com/GoShanePlays. This is live radio. So if you want to call in, you can. It's 501-823-0965. That's 501-823-0965. 0965, or you can tweet me at Shane Plays. That's ShanePlays. Okay, that's enough for the show notes. We're going to get moving forward. I'm going to introduce my guest to celebrate a very cool anniversary. And no, it's not the anniversary of Star Trek. There's another very important anniversary to us geeks out there. I'm joined by Tom Scioli, who is just an amazing comics creator. If you don't know his stuff, you need to go check it out. And you need to go to the show notes at shaneplays.com and see some links to some of his work. Tom, welcome to Shane Plays.
Hi, Shane. Thanks.
Hey, man. So glad to have you on. At the last minute, I know you had to juggle some things to make the show, so I really appreciate you doing that. Okay, so just moving right along, getting right into the show. There, I had a little bit of a different show open today. And that, I don't usually play that at the beginning of the show. I played that because what is it the 30th anniversary of there, Tom?
It's the 30th anniversary of the Transformers motion picture.
The movie, that's right. Not the Transformers toy line, not the Transformers TV series, which I think came out in 1984, if I remember right. I was a huge fan, but Transformers, the movie, which I actually went at the tender age of 14. I asked my grandpa to take me to the movie theater to see that. And I walked out both incredibly entertained and incredibly bemused and befuddled by some of the stuff that happened. But it was an amazing experience, for a 14-year-old kid who loved the Transformers. Zach, hit us with a little clip of that opening theme again from Lion. And that, of course, is after Unicron, who, if they had transposed one letter, Tom, we could have been menaced by a giant unicorn, right? But it was Unicron eats a Transformers-like planet and shows you things are getting real serious real quick. And then it cuts to that. And if you've been watching the show for 2 years, you're like, whoa, this is totally different from anything that I've seen so far with the Transformers. So for you, what did you see? How old were you the first time you saw Transformers the movie?
Let me think. It was 86, so I would have been 10.
Right.
And I feel like I really missed out because I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on VHS. I did see GoBots meet the Rock Lords in the theater. But I feel like I picked the wrong one. I went to the wrong transforming robot movie.
Honestly, I was never a huge GoBots fan, but I did binge watch some GoBots recently, the Challenge of the GoBots, and it was better than I remember, to be honest. It wasn't as bad as I remember. I think I was trying to compare it to Transformers when I should have been trying to watch it as its own thing when I was a kid. But were you a Transformers fan when you saw the movie? Did it totally, you were like, whoa, what all just happened there?
Yeah, of course I was. I mean, everybody my age was totally into Transformers. And it was even more so for me because Transformers were like out of my price range.
Sure.
So that they had even more of like a gloss and an appeal.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember the first Transformers I bought. I don't know how much money it was, and I thought it was a lot of money at my age, and I'm like 12 maybe, and I was going over to a friend's house, and I was like, hey, I'm going to stop by the store and buy some Transformers, and we can play with them. And I walked into the store, and I think I was able to afford like Laserbeak, the little cassette.
Right.
I think that's like all I could afford. So I showed up with like 2 cassettes.
I had an off-brand Laserbeak. It was a Laserbeak that I bought at a carnival that wasn't even, it was a forgery, whatever you'd call it. It was the same toy, but from some other company.
Yeah, it was called like MoveBots or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what we're talking about. The good old knockoffs. Nothing's new there. Well, I'll tell you, the reason the movie just like I walked out of the theater and I was like, wow, how cool was that I saw the Transformers in a movie. But I was also like, I didn't know how to feel because so many characters changed. You know, of course, you had Autobots just getting wasted left and right. You had Megatron became Galvatron, all this whole status quo change. And in fact, it was set in the year 2005. I've linked the Transformers, the movie Wikipedia page on the show notes at shaneplays.com. It talks about a lot of this. The story takes place in 2005. And that's 20 years after the events of the TV series' second season. And it's supposed to bridge into the third season. So the third season of the TV show actually picked up after the movie. And it was a complete status quo change, which I never quite gelled to that new status quo like I did the first 2 seasons. I don't know if you did or not, but I mean, I still loved the Transformers after that, but I wasn't quite as bought in, as I was with the first 2 TV seasons. How did you feel about what the movie did as far as the status quo?
Yeah, since I saw the movie on VHS, I saw the TV show status quo shift without having that intermediary step. And it was bracing, and it was a little bit of a shock. And yeah, when you're a kid, you like things to be familiar, especially if you like them already. But once I sort of got used to that shift, I was totally on board. Like I was even more on board. Because it upped the sci-fi even higher. It was more like Star Wars, more futuristic, more less.
Well, maybe that's what they were going for. Yeah, there was some cool stuff in it. Like I thought the Quintessons were cool, and I thought they're kind of getting more into the origins of the Transformers, and all that was really cool. But I was pretty bought into the episode of the day. Transform or the Autobots versus the Decepticons on Earth, and it just that was with the that had been burned into me, I guess. But like I said, I didn't dislike the new. In fact, some of the episodes in the third season were great. There's one that features Grimlock and fighting like a giant bad robot, and that's one of my favorite ones. Because I love Grimlock. But I'm just going to read off some facts here about this movie. And the reason I'm highlighting this is Shout Factory on Tuesday is releasing a 30th anniversary DVD with a lot of special features, and it's been remastered. It looks great. And that's coming out on Tuesday. So even though the movie came out on August 8th, I figured we'd do this show with, in conjunction with the DVD releasing. And I was actually going to buy a DVD copy of the movie a few months back at a con, and I was talking to a guy. He's like, dude, Shout Factories, but just wait. And so I've been waiting, eagerly, and I haven't seen the movie in its entirety for years. I remember parts of it. I know what happened, but I'm really anticipating, watching this. Are you going to pick up this DVD when it comes out?
Possibly. One of the features I hope it has, which like playing the song from it reminded me, is the soundtrack is so aggressive. It's
very
incredibly aggressive. And I hope they have a version where they maybe like turn down the music or scale it back, because there is like screaming, searing, heavy metal guitar rock music playing throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really targeted to that, young boy 80s market. But that's one thing I would
you
like.
hope they turn off.
Yeah, I mean, you said you haven't seen it in years. I watched it a bunch of times relatively recently in preparation for working on Transformers versus G.I. Joe, and it blew me away. Like it has aged well, aside from that 80s soundtrack.
Yeah, the 80s soundtrack. To be honest, I absolutely love the very beginning when Unicron, a.k.a. the Unicorn of Space, eats that, it's not Cybertron, but it's a Cybertron-like planet. And then it what's that?
It sort of fools you for a minute into thinking
it's Cybertron.
You are watching Cybertron getting devoured.
Yeah, exactly. And then it kind of pans up, and you see the Transformers logo, and that music hits, and it goes Transformer. I was like, whoa! But to be honest, the rest of the soundtrack I could do without. But I love that, because before it was just the standard, Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. You had that theme song. And when that music hit in the movie, it was just another element telling you, hey, this is going to be different. But I'm with you. I could do without Rodimus Prime and You Got the Touch and all that stuff. I mean, it's okay. But I do love that opening pump, that Transformers. I'm going to read some facts and details from the movie. Then we'll hit a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Transformers versus G.I. Joe, which is just mind-bogglingly great. Your series with John Barber from IDW Comics. But here's some interesting facts from the movie. It had voices of Eric Idle, Judd Nelson, Leonard Nimoy, Casey Kasem, Robert Stack, Lionel Stander, John Machida Jr., Peter Cullen, and Frank Welker. It was also the final roles for both Orson Welles. Can you believe Orson Welles was in the Transformers movie? And I mean, one of the giants of films in general. And Scatman Crothers. He died a year before its release, and Orson Welles died a year before its release, and Scatman died a few months after its release. It was 20 years after the events of the second season, served as a bridge to the third season. The tagline was beyond good, beyond evil, beyond your wildest imagination, which I still don't get that tagline, but okay, sounds good. It was the final movie to which Orson Welles contributed. His last voice session was October 5th, 1985, and 5 days later he died of a heart attack. Stan Bush's song, The Touch, was, featured several times, and it was originally written for the Sylvester Stallone film Cobra. And then, of course, you had that Weird Al Yankovic song, Dare to Be Stupid, with the Junkions. And then you had the theme song, which was performed by the band Lion. Now, here was the thing that puzzled me for years, and it took me forever to reconcile because the status quo was so different from the TV show, was so many deaths. You had Optimus Prime died. Ironhide, man, I could have gone into a fetal position when they killed Ironhide. Prowl, Ratchet, Brawn, Windcharger, and Wheeljack. And a substantial number of Autobots from the first two seasons of the show do not appear after the film, leaving their fates uncertain. Now, Decepticons, the only Decepticon that was definitively killed was Starscream. I love Starscream, man. You can't be killing Starscream. I'm glad they brought him back as Starscream's ghost. And the backlash to Optimus Prime's death was so strong. They weren't expecting that. They were like, hey, we need to kill off all these toys so we can introduce new toys, right? In fact, they almost put a Charge of the Light Brigade kind of scene where all these Autobots are charging the Decepticons and all the toys they were phasing out just get cut down right in front of you. But they ended up not doing that. But they did kill Optimus Prime, and they were like kids locking themselves in their room and crying. And they didn't expect that. So they brought him back in the third season, and also... I'm sure you researched, I know you researched G.I. Joe, the movie as well. They were originally going to kill Duke, but instead they just put him in a coma because the backlash to Optimus Prime was so strong. They were like, what? These are toys. What are these kids so upset about? And they basically killed a father figure, who'd been with us for a couple of years, which is a long time when you're a kid. So I just wanted to give a shout out. I can remember going to see it in the theater, major moment in my geek history. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention about the movie before we hit a break and then talk about your comic book series?
Well, just that, like with all those deaths and things that you're talking about, you can tell watching that movie that they took it extremely seriously. Like the makers of the movie, they invested a lot of money, effort, imagination into it, and they made some really bold decisions that I think it was a really like a really well done movie and like way more innovative than anybody could have expected. And it is sort of a shame that when it came time to do the G.I. Joe movie that they sort of backed off a little, because those kind of bold moves were good moves. And the Duke being in a coma rather than dead, if you watch the G.I. Joe movie, it's very obvious that it was a very late edit.
Yeah, he was supposed to die. Yeah, you could tell when he gets hit by that. Is it kind of a serpent that's been straightened into a kind of a spear? I just watched it, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on G.I. Joe. I really want to get us to a break because I want to talk about your comic book. But I rewatched the G.I. Joe movie fairly recently because of your comic book. It got me, I want to go, get back into my G.I. Joe and Transformers. And that opening scene where that you don't know who the mysterious figure is that's charging through, I think is the G.I. Joe headquarters. That was an amazing scene. I mean, that was an amazing scene regardless of what the franchise was. I was really impressed with that. They just couldn't stop her and all that stuff. I was just really impressed with how that opened. But anyway, okay, I'm going to take us to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Transformers versus G.I. Joe comic you did for IDW, along with John Barber, Transformers versus G.I. Joe. And people, get on the internet right now and go look this thing up. Super cool. Even if it's not Transformers versus G.I. Joe, this is an amazing comic book series. I'm going to throw some love at a sponsor real quick. We'll hit a break. Meanwhile, in Hot Springs, SpaCon lands in the Spa City September 23rd through 25th at the Hot Springs Convention Center. Come out and celebrate your love of comics, science fiction, anime, cosplay, gaming, pop culture, and all things entertainment. SpaCon is a full-fledged comic book convention complete with celebrity guests, vendors selling their wares, comic book artists, panel discussions featuring special guests, cosplayers, and so much more. To find out more about SpaCon, including a full schedule of guests and events, or to purchase tickets, visit www.spa-con.org.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com today.
Megawars.net.
The classic online space strategy game has returned, bigger and better than ever before. Scout the universe and claim your empire. Construct, customize, and launch dozens of different starships. Battle thousands of opponents online in a team-based competition leading to the ultimate Battle of the Galaxies. Grab your slot today for the only online game where tactics and strategy still reign supreme. Visit megawars.net and get options only available in our special pre-sales previews running now.
Megawars.net.
The die is cast. Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions, Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.
We now return to the Transformers.
Hey, we're back. Shane Plays Geek Talk Radio, a journey into the things we love. Our phone number is 501-823-0965. That's 501-823-0965. You can also tweet me at Shane Plays, ShanePlays. I'm joined by Tom Scioli, who is a comics creator, does some really innovative, cool stuff, and he worked with John Barber at IDW on a Transformers versus G.I. Joe I guess maxi series, is that what they call them these days? It goes up to issue 13. It started with issue 0. By the way, Tom, issue 0 is the only one I haven't been able to track down and get my hands on. So, but I've read 1 through 13, and wow, we've got just under 20 minutes. There is no way I can really go into this comic book series in that time. I want to tell people this. I've been reading comics since, late 70s, early 80s, probably early to mid 80s. I got super hardcore and have been a major nerd since then on comics. I have never read anything like this. Not just the art, not just the plotting, not just the dialogue. I've never read anything like this ever. So if you're a fan of comic books, or if you're a fan of stories and output, creative things that transcend the medium, the genre, whatever, you owe it to, whether you could care less about Transformers or G.I. Joe, you need to go get this. Go to your comic book store and ransack the back issues like I did, or go get it. I think it's on Comixology. Is that right, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on Comixology. There's trade paperbacks, I believe, collections of it. You've got to read this. There's some innovative, groundbreaking, cool stuff in here. It's nothing like, I remember getting the Transformers G.I. Joe comic book from Marvel 4-issue limited series back in the day. And that's what you expect when you pick something like this up. No, it's like how 2001: A Space Odyssey transcends what film is. Now, Tom, I'm not trying to embarrass you or anything like that. Okay, but this is crazy. So, and the style is amazing. When you first pick it up and look it open, it looks like old kind of faded newsprint, kind of on purpose.
Yeah,
and the art, like in some cases you can see the pencil lines, but it's all on purpose. And I know a lot of people hang the Kirby tag on you, Tom. Yes, of course, there's some Kirby influence in here, but this is not a Kirby clone at all. It's mind-boggling. I don't even know. I never read anything like it. And I'll be honest with you. The first time I picked it up, here's what happened. For various reasons, I dropped Marvel for the time being out of my reserve list, and that gave me some more budget. So I said, well, I'm gonna check out all the DC Rebirth stuff. And I'm going to start picking up some more independents. And I started reading more and more IDW. I got nothing but respect for what IDW is putting out. Because it would be easy to take these franchised, what do you call it, intellectual property, like toys or existing stuff like ROM or Micronauts or Transformers, and phone it in, right? Because you've already got an existing fan base. But IDW is doing some really cool stuff. And the regular Transformers comic books are good on their own, but this is next level, this Transformers versus G.I. Joe. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The first time I was like browsing the rack, and I was like, what do I want to get? And I picked it up and I flipped through it, and I was like, I have no idea what to make of this. And I put it. I'm not gonna lie, man. I put it back down, and I was like, I don't know what is this. But then, like a week or two later, I picked a couple of issues of it back up, and took it home, read it, was absolutely blown away, and spent like the next week or so ransacking all the back issues that I could find. So, having said all that, there's no way to really get into the plot or what happens in here with the time we have. But I just want to say it's absolutely revolutionary, both in the style and in the story it tells and the way you tell it. How did this comic book happen? How did you and John Barber convince IDW to publish this?
Well, I mean, I had been doing creator-owned work for pretty much my whole career, American Barbarian, things like that, and Godland. And I decided I wanted to try doing like actual whatever you would call like mainstream comics, or try my hand at it. And so I contacted a bunch of companies, and IDW came through, and they started giving me some cover work and things like that. And then just one day, John Barber said, I was in the bathtub, and it just suddenly came to me this like vision of of G.I. Joe landing on Cybertron with you doing it, and like, what do you think? And I was like, yeah, that's
so this came from John Barber, the initial genesis. Okay, I just assumed that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He came to me with it. He said like just that like my style and like the G.I. Joes being on Cybertron, like it and to me it was like, oh yeah, I can do something with this. I can take and initially like the thought was to do it up as like you're saying, sort of like a Kirby clone kind of thing. But like the more I thought about the possibilities of it, I thought, well, rather than make sort of like a nostalgic comic, I mean, it'll have its nostalgic elements, but I wanted to make like a true 21st century comic, comics have been sort of, told the same way for, really like since the 30s and 40s. It has barely changed. I wanted to, just find a way to use everything and rearrange things and take advantage of like the infinite possibilities that comics have that still have only the surface has been scratched. Well,
I feel like that you guys have pushed the envelope with this series. And it, like I said, the nostalgia factor helps because the appearance of the book feels nostalgic. And of course you're using all these nostalgic characters. You're not using, some brand new idea of what the Transformers should. You're basically using the Generation 1 toys. I mean, I know that there were, they look like the toys. And the G.I. Joe characters look like the toys. And you work in all these characters and vehicles, and it's obvious that you researched as much of the lore of Transformers and G.I. Joe as you could, because there's some deep cuts in here, man. I mean, there's some way deep cuts that, if somebody's a true fan, they'll be like, wow, I can't believe that they worked that in. So given the style, because you even, went out of your way to make the pages look, I don't know, faded's not the right word, but just like an older newsprint kind of. Did you have trouble with IDW getting them to agree to the style of what you guys did?
In the very, very, very beginning, because it was a hard sell because it really does it doesn't look like anything else on the stands. And whenever you're doing something that's just like radically different, it can take some convincing. And since it wasn't a straight Kirby riff, it was kind of in the beginning. It was like, this wasn't exactly what we had talked about, and Hasbro especially was getting a little scared about it initially, but then, I just sort of stuck with it. Like I had this vision that I believed in, and I just sort of stuck with it. And once it sort of came out and was successful and everything, then it was like, okay, we get it. But I understand that that's just how it is. When you have something that was a tough sell, and it's sort of the same thing now that I'm doing work at DC. It's like every new arena that you enter, you do have to, convince the people there that like, no, this vision that I have is I know it's different. I know it's not what you're used to, but it's the way to go.
Yeah, you're doing some superpowers backups, right? Did I see that correctly? Yeah. So that's another.
Yeah, superpowers. Yeah, and they're backup comics that'll run in the back of Cave Carson has a cybernetic.
Yeah, these new young animal books look really crazy. I'm looking forward to them. So okay. So here's another cool thing that you guys did. You have director's notes kind of at the back of each director's commentary. You call it story commentary with Tom Scioli and John Barber, where you and John go through. I think there's one issue, like issue 12 or 11, that doesn't have it, but every other issue, at the end, y'all go through page by page and give commentary on story and art and why you did things the way you did things. I loved that. That was, I really looked forward to that as much as I did reading I'm like, I'd flip back and go, oh, what were they doing there? Or where did that come from? Or something like that. So whose idea was it to do these story commentaries?
I mean, that was mine. Like for me, like I have a lot of friends who make comics, and I find like I get a lot more out of their comics because I know them.
Right.
And so to me, it's like I can't go door to door and meet every single person who's reading this and and have them get to know me and my personality and where I'm coming from. But those commentaries were a way of like, letting you get to know me, get to know John, get to know the way we think, get to know our process, get to know where we're coming from, and hopefully that enriches the work.
Okay. So I really enjoyed that. So it connected me in even deeper. Now, one thing that a recurring theme in these story commentaries is John Barber, who's like one of the main writers for, the IDW Transformers, he's no slouch when it comes to writing Transformers. He kept saying, "Oh, that was all you. Oh, that was all you. Wow, I was just along for the ride." He would say, like, it's the Chris Farley show. Of course, he was referring to the old SNL skit where Chris Farley would have a talk show, and he would just say, "Oh, you're so great. I'm nothing," or something like that. What was John Barber's role in this book?
Well, I mean, like I said before, he was the one who sparked the whole thing, got it going. And like when we started, like I said, I have this like new way I want to work where I just throw everything in, just go full out, and you like do as much as you like, however much you want, and then we'll just like meet somewhere in the middle. And so we started doing that for like the first couple issues. Then as it went on, I mean, it really did become like it did sort of become my book. But since he was so vital there, at the very beginning, and he still, had his input. And
yeah, it's obvious that y'all talk through each book and what's going to happen. Yeah. And it's obvious that, he was involved with every book or every issue.
Yeah. And he, fought a lot of battles with Hasbro on my behalf and things like that.
Cool.
So even though, from issue to issue, it's largely me. And then it's like there's one issue where it's just 100% me. But even so, I mean, he had a very important role to play. So we kept that in place.
Right. Okay. Well, cool. So another thing I want to let people know, and I want to know how did you? There are some layouts, like some 1-page spreads or 2-page spreads in here that pack in more sequential action and storytelling than any other book I think I've ever seen. Now, there's probably some other books out there from Kirby or Steranko or something like that were, innovative in the same way. But I feel like y'all set some Guinness World Records here for layout, for just all the, you talk about in your commentary, like, we, this page, we did this and it tells this. And like, since radio's not a visual medium, it's very hard for me to describe, but there's layouts in here that there's more going on in a way that still makes sense and is not overwhelming probably than any other book I've ever seen. Where did you develop that ability, or what made you decide to push that?
Well, I mean, wait till you see Superpowers, because like these pages I've been working on lately, I've like pushed it even further. It's even more intense, and especially since it's a backup strip, so I don't have like a full 20 pages to work on.
Right.
I'm really, really folding and folding. But I mean, to me, like where it came from was just like I had done a ton of preparatory writing before I even started, actual like work on the book, and like over 100 pages of just like figuring out the story. And when it came time to make the comic, it's like, okay, you have 20 pages, and it's like, well, can I get 21? No, it's 20. Like, and so. It was just by necessity. I had this massive story I wanted to tell, and I kept, sort of finding ways to get the most out of each page. And like one thing about comics that I don't think like creators have really caught on to yet is that with digital printing, we can put so much information into a comic, so much more than at any other time, and still have it be legible, readable, understandable. That you can do a new kind of comic and people will still get it. It's just a matter of the effort. It takes tremendous effort to keep, coming back to a page and rewriting and redrawing and just folding, almost like making a samurai sword or something where you're just folding metal over and out. You're folding soft metal over hard metal over soft metal until you have a strong thing. And that's that's how it went.
Well, you got. One of the things I love about your books, each issue, like I hate a comic book, but I don't hate them. I mean, I still enjoy them, but I prefer a comic book that I don't pick up and I'm done reading it in 3 minutes. And these you can't blow through. I mean, these are informationally and artistically dense and rich. All right, I'm going to, Tom, I'm going to try to get you out of here. I just had two last questions for you if you have time. One of them I think is fair and the other one is unfair. How long does it take to put out a book like this for you to write it and draw it? And then two, you got to tell me who your favorite Transformer and your favorite G.I. Joe is, or very favorite Cobra. And I know that's not fair, but I got to ask you anyway.
Well, in the beginning, the idea was that it would take a month, but as it went on, I just, like the quality of it was so much more important to me than the timeliness of it. So it started taking a month and a half, then 2 months, then 2.5 months. So, I mean, it just, to me, it's like when it's finished, it's finished.
Well, you've seen The Agony and the Ecstasy, right? Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
It'll be done when it's done, Pope. But
exactly.
Okay, so what? All right, so it takes a while, but all good things, it take this. I can see why it would take a while. All right, who's your favorite Transformer, and who's your favorite G.I. Joe or Cobra?
Well, I'm sitting here doodling in a notebook as we talk, and I drew Optimus Prime. So it's Optimus Prime.
Yeah, it's Optimus.
He's the guy.
All right.
Yeah.
Rodimus was a poor substitute. I'm sorry. I like Hot Rod, but Rodimus Prime, I don't know what they were thinking. Anyway. Okay. So how about your favorite G.I. Joe or Cobra?
Well, I mean, this is equally obvious, but it's Snake Eyes. I mean, if you were only going to have one from each, like if Transformers versus G.I. Joe just had one Transformer and one G.I. Joe, it would be Optimus and Snake Eyes. And even, like I was thinking, if I were to ever do like a sequel or a follow-up to this, I think I would want to take that direction where it's like a road trip story where it's, riding down the highway in Optimus Prime in this 18-wheeler form is
and Snake Eyes.
And just go from town to town and get into crazy adventures.
Yeah, so it's like BJ and the Bear, except with Optimus Prime and Snake Eyes. Tom, I love it. Wish I could talk to you longer, but I know you got to run. Thank you so much for your time. If you want to come back on down the road and talk about Godland, American Barbarian, your DC stuff, come on back on, because we've barely scratched the surface of what you're doing with this show today. But I wish you well. Thank you so much, and I hope to talk to you again down the road.
I'd love to, Shane. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Have a good day. All right, Zach, I'm going to throw some love at Game Goblins, and we're going to cut to a break. And when we come back, I'm going to share a little bit of news. We'll do the news at the end of this show today due to Tom's schedule. And I'm going to share my favorite bad Star... Well, it's a bad Star Trek joke, but my favorite Star Trek joke in general for the Star Trek 50th anniversary. Some goblins are your friends. Game Goblins is Central Arkansas's premier retailer of Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, board games, card games, RPGs, miniatures, and hobby accessories. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. Conveniently located at 1121 South Bowman, right on the corner of Bowman and Canis in West Little Rock, and staffed by friendly employees, Game Goblins has expanded their store size and there's plenty of room for exciting inventory and tables for play space. For all your gaming needs, I heartily recommend Game Goblins. Make sure to check out their customer loyalty program that rewards you based on your actual purchases. Game Goblins earns your business and keeps it. First-time customers mention Shane Plays and receive $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. Tell them Shane Plays sent you.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com today.
Megawars.net.
The classic online space strategy game has returned, bigger and better than ever before. Scout the universe and claim your empire. Construct, customize, and launch dozens of different starships. Battle thousands of opponents online in a team-based competition leading to the ultimate Battle of the Galaxies. Grab your slot today for the only online game where tactics and strategy still reign supreme. Visit megawars.net and get options only available in our special pre-sales previews running now.
Megawars.net.
The die is cast. Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions. Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.
We now return to the Transformers.
Hey, we're back. Shane Plays Geek Talk Radio, a journey into things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. We were joined previously in the show by Tom Scioli, who is a comics creator doing incredibly cool, innovative stuff, and recently did Transformers versus G.I. Joe for IDW, and he's also working on some stuff with superpowers in his own unique style for DC as a backup feature to Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye, which will be coming out soon. Due to Tom's schedule today, we saved the news for the end of the show. Obviously, the big news is the Star Trek 50th anniversary. And even though, the main reason I did Transformers today, because I'm a huge Transformers nut. Now, I love Star Trek, but Transformers was a love of my youth, and I still love it. And the 30th anniversary of the movie, Transformers, the movie DVD, is coming out Tuesday with, it's been remastered with special features from Shout Factory, comes out Tuesday. You can go to shaneplays.com and see links to learn more about the movie or ordering the movie, learn more about Tom Scioli. Very cool stuff. And if you're into comics at all and want to see what can be done with art in comics, you need to go read Transformers versus G.I. Joe from IDW and Tom Scioli and John Barber. Okay, having said all that, it is the Star Trek 50th. And yes, a lot of people have covered it. I can't let a show go by. I can't let today's show go by without mentioning it. And I cover Star Trek on the show a lot. September 8th, 1966. So 2 days ago was the 50th anniversary. We're basically in the 50th anniversary year. the first episode of Star Trek broadcast, and it was called The Man Cage. Now, the pilot...
Whoa, let's hit pause there real quick. Hey folks, Shane here, doing an editorial intervention on the podcast and Krypton radio version of the show. Obviously, it was the man trap, not the man cage. I don't know what happened there, but not only was that a breach of protocol and security, but a major geek and Star Trek faux pas. So I humbly apologize. I've already self-admitted and turned myself into Starfleet headquarters, where they put me through a court-martial and they rang the little bell thing and put my hand on the truth-telling glowy thingy, and I've been busted down to the rank of Wesley Crusher. So I will endeavor to work my way back up in the ranks of Star Trek geekdom and restore some sense of dignity and honor among you all in the future. And I've also been contacted by the official Geek Administration Society of the World, and they've assigned me demerits. So just going to have a long road ahead as I work my way back to respectability. And now on with the show.
For Star Trek was I called The Cage, even though they're not related, and it was later reworked into a 2-part episode of Star Trek called The Menagerie, talking about Christopher Pike and Spock's previous captain on the Enterprise and all that. Star Trek, how do you even put into words the cultural impact that Star Trek has had? It's really hard. Even if you're not into Star Trek, the cultural impact, not just the pop cultural entertainment impact, but the cultural impact of Star Trek is hard to put into words. It has inspired so many people, not only through its philosophy, but also through the technology. If you've ever used a smartphone or a flip phone, a Bluetooth headset, a tablet computer, many other technologies were inspired by Star Trek. Video conferencing, all these things, little floppy disks and portable computer memory and all that, the ability to talk to a computer and have it talk back to you. This stuff was all on Star Trek before that technology ever existed. And in some cases, it inspired people to go on and make the technology. Transparent aluminum from the Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. So there are just so many, a lot of people wanted to become engineers because of Star Trek, because of Montgomery Scott's character, the chief engineer. It's just so hard. There's no way I can cover it. Huge. And, at various times in my life, I've been more into Star Trek and then less into Star Trek and more into Star Trek. I'm a Star Trek fan. I like Star Trek. It's not only for nostalgia, but for what it represents. We got a new show, Star Trek Discovery, starting in January. I've even enjoyed, although I would rather have the original universe stuff, I've enjoyed J.J. Abrams' J.J. Trek movies. And the TV show, it's such an impact. Uhura, Nichelle Nichols was set history by being, basically a black woman on a major show. It showed the first interracial kiss. It really it had a lot of philosophy of, hey, let's all just get along. Even, and Gene Roddenberry, the great bird of the galaxy himself, would tell you that he was trying to talk about social issues using science fiction. Because if you tried to talk out loud about that stuff, then, people are like, but if you put it under the layer of science fiction, then it could fly. There's the classic episode where you've got the aliens that are half black and half white, and one faction doesn't like the other, and you realize, well, because one faction, the black is on one side and the white's on one side, and the other faction, it's reversed. But to us, that seems ridiculous, but to them, it's worth fighting over. Obviously talking about racism. So anyway, I salute Star Trek for what it's done. It's no other, it's transgressed, or not transgressed. It's gone or transcended just being an entertainment show. It's affected people in many ways. So here's to Star Trek on their 50th. And in true Shane Plays fashion, to celebrate that, I will tell my favorite Star Trek joke. How come when Picard says fire at will, no one blasts Riker? Zach's in there like, you don't get it? You never watched The Next Generation? All right, anyway, there's people who got that. My favorite Star Trek joke. How come when Picard says fire at will, no one blasts Riker? All right, play that special musical moment that we always have to play for Star Trek on this show.
Star trekking across the universe.
On the Starship Enterprise, under Captain Kirk.
Star trekking across the universe.
Slowly going forward, 'cause we can't find reverse.
All right, that's, again, I will not be held responsible for any mental damage resulting from that. I have lawyers that have drawn up multiple clever documents to keep me from having any responsibility for that whatsoever. But on a serious note, I hope Star Trek continues to boldly go and inspire people, in the decades to come. I don't agree with all of the philosophy that Star Trek presents in all of its various episodes and all of its very incarnations, but how can you? But the overall aim is to be something greater, and to inspire people. And I hope they get back in Star Trek to people can be better. We can explore, and there's the optimism. We've lost some of the optimism of the original Star Trek. So I hope we get back to that. Now, speaking of Star Trek, there is a new Star Trek Continues episode out. Episode 7, Embracing the Winds. Fantastic. They keep getting better and better, even though they started good. Of course, we've had Star Trek Continues. We've had Michelle Specht and Chuck Huber and others on the show multiple times. I have much respect for what they're doing. I love all the fan film stuff out there, and I hope these fan film guidelines things get resolved amicably in a way that lets fans produce cool content in a way that doesn't threaten CBS and Paramount. But Embracing the Winds is excellent. They tackle the topic of gender discrimination in a very well done way, but yet still feels like it was an episode of the 60s Star Trek. So go check that out. Last news item that I'm going to throw out there today is that I do have a review out, and it's on my website at shaneplays.com. It's also on the YouTube channel. Just search for Storm King's Thunder Review on YouTube if you want to find it, or you can go to, it's linked on my review is linked on the show notes at shaneplays.com. It's for Storm King's Thunder, the new D&D adventure. So I liked it. You can find the review there. There's a video review and also a written out review. You can do whichever one you prefer. So go check that out. There's the music. So I'm about to have to wrap us up. But also I want to say next week we're going to have our guest will be Stephanie Straw. She's been on the show before. She's a gaming maven in many ways. But she's going to be talking about escape rooms. Have you heard about these businesses that basically lock you in a room and you have to go through some puzzles to figure out how to get out? They're getting very popular. And it's just basically solving a lot of puzzles in an hour. Can you solve enough these puzzles to figure out how to get out of the room in an hour? So we're going to be talking about that next week with Stephanie Straw. Thanks so much for listening to Shane Plays.
One shall stand, one shall fall. Why throw away your life so recklessly? That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron. No! I'll crush you with my bare hands! I've got to help Prime! Stay away, lad! That's Prime's fight!
More than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons, the Transformers. Robots in the sky. The Transformers. More than meets the eye. The Transformers.
Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.